Not all fruits are as harmless as they look. That's not a popular thing to say in a world that has spent decades telling us to eat more fruit. Choose fruit over dessert. Grab a piece of fruit instead of whatever we actually wanted. And the general advice isn't wrong. Fruit is nutritious, fiber-rich, and full of vitamins the body genuinely needs. But after 60, the conversation gets more nuanced. Because some fruits in certain amounts or combinations can spike your blood sugar, irritate a digestive system that's become more sensitive with age, or interfere with medications in ways that are quiet, invisible, and genuinely dangerous. And that's the part nobody talks about at the Fruit Bowl. So today we're going to. Here's the honest foundation before we get into specifics. Fruit is not the enemy. This video is not about fear, and it's not about stripping away one of the few genuinely pleasurable parts of eating well. But biology changes as we age. Metabolism slows. The body processes sugar differently. Many people over 60 are managing conditions like diabetes or hypertension that shift what safe in large amounts actually means. And many are taking medications that interact with the world around them in ways their prescribing doctor may not have had time to explain fully. Understanding which fruits deserve a second look and why isn't about restriction. It's about eating with awareness instead of assumption. The first fruit that deserves serious attention is grapefruit, and this one isn't about sugar at all. Grapefruit contains compounds called furanocoumarins that interfere with a key enzyme in the liver and intestines responsible for breaking down a remarkably wide range of medications. When that enzyme is blocked, drugs stay in your bloodstream longer and at higher concentrations than intended. For some medications, that means a dose that was calibrated to be therapeutic becomes something closer to an overdose. Not dramatically, not immediately, but consistently and cumulatively. The medications affected include some of the most commonly prescribed drugs for people over 60, certain blood pressure medications, cholesterol-lowering statins, some heart rhythm drugs, anxiety medications, and more. The troubling part is that it doesn't take much. Even one glass of grapefruit juice can affect drug metabolism for up to 24 hours. If you're on any regular medication, checking whether grapefruit is on the interaction list for that drug is worth a 5-minute conversation with your pharmacist. Healthy fruit, genuinely, but dangerous timing for the wrong person. The second is overripe bananas. And the distinction between banana that's slightly yellow and one that's covered in brown spots matters more than most people realize. As a banana ripens, its starch converts to sugar. A firm, slightly underripe banana has a relatively modest glycemic impact. It releases glucose more slowly because of the resistant starch still present. But a very ripe banana, soft and sweet, is essentially a concentrated sugar delivery system. For people managing blood sugar, which includes a significant portion of adults over 60, whether diagnosed with diabetes or just deal with the pre-diabetic blood sugar creep, that becomes increasingly common with age. That spike matters. A banana a day, firm and moderately ripe, is fine for most people. A couple of overripe ones eaten in one sitting, because they needed to be used up, is a different conversation. Moderation, not elimination. But pay attention to the color of what you're eating. The third category is canned fruit and syrup, and this one is almost a trick, because it carries the appearance of fruit while delivering something considerably less wholesome. Canned peaches, pears, mandarin oranges, and cocktail mixes packed in heavy or light syrup come loaded with added sugar that has nothing to do with the natural fruit itself. The sugar content can rival that of dessert, and for older adults managing weight, blood sugar, or both, it adds up quickly without ever feeling like indulgence. The frustrating part is that canned fruit is often chosen for convenience and cost, both legitimate concerns. The simple fix is looking for versions packed in water or in their own juice, which retain the convenience while cutting the sugar load dramatically. It's a small label reading habit that makes a real difference over time. Fourth are dried fruits, raisins, dates, dried mango, dried apricots, dried cranberries. And the problem here is one of concentration and portion distortion. When you remove the water from fruit, you remove the volume while leaving the sugar behind. What was a cup of grapes becomes a small handful of raisins. The fiber is still there. Some nutrients survive. But the sugar is now dense, intensely flavored, and very easy to overeat because the volume cues that normally tell your brain you've had enough have been stripped away. A handful of raisins that feels like a modest snack can contain the sugar equivalent of several servings of fresh grapes. For people with diabetes or insulin resistance, that's a significant hit arriving in a deceptively small package. A handful turns into a sugar avalanche faster than almost any other food category. Dried fruits aren't forbidden, but they need to be measured rather than grabbed from a bag while distracted. The fifth is store-bought fruit juice, and this one requires a small but important correction to a widespread misunderstanding. Juice is not fruit. Even juice that says 100% pure with no added sugar is not nutritionally equivalent to eating the whole fruit. When you juice fruit, you remove the fiber. And fiber is precisely what slows the absorption of natural sugars into your bloodstream, creating the gradual, manageable glucose curve that makes whole fruit a reasonable choice for most people. Without the fiber, the sugar from juice hits your bloodstream rapidly. The glycemic response looks much more like soda than like eating an apple. A glass of orange juice in the morning delivers the sugar of 3 or 4 oranges with none of the fullness or the fiber that eating one orange would give you. For people managing blood sugar, that distinction is not trivial. Eat the fruit, drink water, reserve juice for the occasional glass rather than treating it as a daily health habit. 6 is pineapple, specifically in excess. Pineapple is genuinely nutritious. It contains vitamin C, manganese, and bromelain, an enzyme with anti-inflammatory properties that has real benefits. But it's also high in natural sugar and significantly acidic, and both of those qualities become relevant in larger amounts for older adults. The sugar content can drive blood glucose spikes in people with diabetes or impaired insulin response. The acidity can irritate a stomach or esophagus that's become more sensitive with age. Acid reflux and gastroesophageal issues become more common after 60, and pineapple is one of the fruits most reliably associated with triggering or worsening symptoms. A few pieces of fresh pineapple as part of a balanced meal is not a problem for most people. A large bowl of it on an empty stomach is a different experience entirely, particularly if your digestive system has been sending you signals lately. 7th is watermelon, and this is the one that surprises people most because watermelon feels light. It's mostly water. It doesn't taste particularly sweet in the way that a ripe mango or a date does. It feels harmless and refreshing, and like exactly the kind of thing you're supposed to be eating. But watermelon has one of the highest glycemic index values of any common fruit. Glycemic index measures how quickly a food raises blood glucose, and watermelon ranks high, which means that despite its water content and its innocent reputation, a large serving can drive a rapid and significant sugar spike. In smaller portions paired with other foods, watermelon is fine, but the way most people eat it, in generous slabs at summer gatherings or as a large bowl on a hot afternoon, can be genuinely problematic for anyone whose blood sugar regulation is already compromised. The lesson here is that light tasting does not mean low impact. So what does a smarter approach actually look like? It starts with shifting from fear to portion awareness, because the problem with almost everything on this list isn't the fruit itself. It's the amount and the context. The fruits that tend to be safest and most consistently recommended for older adults managing blood sugar are berries. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, which are high in fiber and antioxidants and relatively low in sugar. Apples and pears, eaten with the skin on, provide soluble fiber that slows sugar absorption. Cherries, peaches, and plums are reasonable choices in normal serving sizes. And one strategy that makes almost any fruit safer is pairing it with a source of protein or fat, a few walnuts, a spoonful of nut butter, some Greek yogurt, which slows the rate at which sugar enters your bloodstream and flattens that glucose curve considerably. The larger point, and the one worth carrying away from this, is that this is not about banning fruit from your life or treating your kitchen like a minefield. It's about understanding that individual health context matters enormously, that what's fine for one person may need to be modified for another, and that the blanket advice to simply eat more fruit doesn't account for the more specific reality of managing diabetes, taking medications, or navigating a metabolism that works differently at 65 than it did at 35. Knowing the difference is not deprivation. It's intelligence applied to something that actually matters. After 60, your body whispers instead of shouting. The signals are quieter. The consequences of ignoring them build more slowly, but land harder. Listening carefully to what you eat, how your body responds, what your blood work tells you, what your doctor and pharmacist know that a fruit label doesn't say, is one of the most powerful health habits available to you. Not dramatic, not expensive, just paying attention. If this kind of honest, practical guidance is useful to you, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Share this with someone you love who's over 60 and still treating all fruit equally. And like this video if it gave you something worth thinking about. Your body is still working hard for you. The least you can do is pay a little closer attention in return.